Hi, it's Jen and IMX. How are you doing today? We're going to be doing a series on the roller today for calming your body. Now, you can't really control how much stress and anxiety is in your life these days, but you can think about how you respond to it. And physically, we're going to do some roller work today to help you do that. So I'm going to start with an upper back or thoracic gliding. So I'm going to have you lay on your back and place the roller in between your shoulder blades. You'll know if you're in the right spot if when you extend your arms up and you tap your shoulder blades down, that you're right at the bottom of them. I'm going to take my hands, interlace them, let my head rest in them, and I'm going to lift my hips up and begin to glide on the upper body. Remember, the fascia is like a sponge, and when it gets dehydrated from either chronic injury, stress, or just sleeping wrong the night before, that it can get bound up. And the rolling is just one of the ways that we can get that hydration moving throughout the body. As you're gliding onto, looking for areas of tightness and to start to shift your body right to left. You might notice the left side a little tighter than the right, or vice versa. I'm going to shift my weight off to the right a little bit. I'm going to bring my bottom down to the floor, open up the right leg and open up the right shoulder. And in this position, I'm just going to start to move either at the right arm, moving in and out, or I can make a small circle with my shoulder blade against the roller. After I've done a few of these, I'm going to pause, take a deep breath, come back to the center, and I'm going to continue to glide in that same area. You'll do the same thing on the left side, bringing your bottom down to the floor, shifting your weight to the left, opening up that leg to the side, and opening up that arm. Now again, you can either shear by moving at that shoulder or a small circle. Pause there, come back to the center, lift the hips, and continue to glide. We'll do a shear on both right and left, pausing here. And I'm going to have you take your body almost like a little snow angel, dragging the skin, pulling it away from the bone, allowing that hydration. We've glided to prepare the surface, and now we're going through the shear to move that fluid. Pause there, take a deep breath, and slowly come down to the ground. You're going to sit yourself up, and we're going to move to the back side of that rib cage. So I don't know if you're like me, but a lot of my upper body holds on to my stress. It comes in through the shoulder blades, neck area, and everything kind of finds itself attached to those shoulder blades and those scapular muscles. So I'm going to bring myself down where my lat or the back of my rib cage is on there, and my forearm and my arm. And this is going to help distribute some of the weight. If it's a little too deep on that rib cage area, I can put some of that in my arm. Now, another thing I can do in this position is I can adjust my arm so that I can rest my head in my hand. And then I'm just going to simply coil my body up, retracting it, and press out. Now, I can either drop my hips and push up onto that roller, or I can just think of curling and extending my spine. Either way, I'm looking for areas of tightness in those lats on the backside of that rib cage area, and maybe even into the forearm and arm. I'll have you pause there. From that position there, you can even shimmy a little bit. Pause and take a deep breath. Remember, we always want to pause after the shear just to allow the work that you did to have its moment to settle in. And now we're going to move into the lat area. You're going to do that by extending the arm and extending the other arm. So you have a little bit of help here with taking some of the weight off the roller if it gets to be too much. So from this position right here, I'm going to use that recoiled position again and just gently start to roll. If it's too much with that arm extended, bring it back down, rest it back on top, or assist by pushing through the arms. I can move lower, I can move higher. Remember those lats, insert way down on that rib cage so you can look for those areas of tightness and pause there. Deep breath. Now that I've glided, I'm going to do a little bit of a shear, and I'm just going to move my arm. And then pause and take a deep breath. Now, instead of coming right back up, I'm going to use this position to actually get a nice little lengthening stretch, the muscles of the top of the hip here, so your QL muscles. To do that, I'm going to come up on my elbow, roll the roller down a little bit lower. You'll know if it's in the right place because the idea is to try to distribute half your weight in one direction and half of it in the other. So those who are longer in the torso might find yourself adjusting this, and shorter torso as well. I'm going to let my head come down and rest on my arm, reach my arm open, and then I'm going to take my bottom leg, extend it out, and just feel the opening of the rib cage, the QL muscle, and maybe even part of that hip flex. Hold there. Deep breath. Now, for some of you, this will be a very deep stretch, so I just want to caution you coming out of it. Use your hands, shift your weight forward, and then slowly bring yourself up. Wait for a moment. It's a good long lengthening stretch, and we're going to come up. Now, we're going to do the same exact thing on the other side. So I'm going to move my roller, and I'm going to start with getting to that rib cage, getting on the forearm and arm, and bringing myself slowly down to the roller. Again, you always have that option of using that assistance on the neck by holding that head. So in this position, again, I'm just recoiling and pushing up. And really, my weight's not directly on top of that roller. It's kind of on the back end of the roller, rolling up on top of it. Deep breaths, looking for areas of tightness, and I want you to pause there. You can share lots of different ways. I believe I used the one with the arm moving, so you have that as an option. For some of you, the lats will get so tight that you might just sit here and rotate your arm in and out, and that's fine as well. Pause, wait, hold there, and then come up slightly. Now we're going to get a little lower on that. We're going to extend that arm out, roll the roller down just a bit, and now using both arms here, I'm going to extend, again, using that recoiled position. It's almost like I'm doing a curl and then extending, pushing up onto the roller, keeping that resistance even. And the general rule is you don't want to feel like it's so hard and so deep and intolerable that you have to like almost hold your breath. You want to be able to breathe comfortably. Pause there. Again, figure out, do you want to do a shim across there? Or do you want to move with the arm? If your head got tired, you can always rest it. Deep breath. Excellent. So remember, you could have rolled anywhere along that lat, and you can go even lower into that shoulder blade, just depending on where you're carrying your tightness. And if you feel like you want to spend some more time here, just pause the video, spend some more time in any one of these areas. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just don't spend more than 10 minutes on one given area. Now I'm going to come up slightly, pull the roller underneath me. Remember that nice little side stretch we did? We're going to do that again. Extend my arm out, let my head rest, reach my arm over, and then extend the leg out and behind. Again, I'm looking for an opening as if the hip is being pulled in one direction and then the bottom of the rib cage is being pulled in the other. Reach that open. Just like in your IMX training, think of that breath really connecting to the core and feeling the lengthening. Slowly bring yourself nice and slow. Excellent. Hold there for a moment. And then come up all the way. So we're doing really well, but I wanted to take a moment to pause and just get the neck a little bit of attention before we move to more cervical and shoulder blade stuff. And the reason being is if at this point you have some tightness in your neck, I want to kind of move some of that out, and then we can get back to the thoracic area. So you're going to lay all the way on your back. I'm going to move my ponytail kind of out of the way so that I could rest my hairline on the roller. Now this one's a little tricky to find, but really if you go up the back of your neck and you feel where that hairline starts, that's really where you want it. So your head's at that slight angle. I'm going to extend both my legs out, bring my hands to the floor in their natural position, and I'm just going to let my head turn side to side. Now be careful with the neck. The natural tendency is to say, oh, this feels so good, I bet if I push harder it'd be better. But that really isn't the case. You want to be careful with the neck, especially in this flexed position. And just allow the weight of your head to be like a bowling ball on top of that roller. And then we'll come back to the center. Pause there. Great job. Let's get a little deeper into the left side of the body. I'm going to bend my knees and I'm going to shift my weight slightly to that left side. Now I'm just on the outside of the medial part of that spinal extensor, and I'm going to do some small circles. Again, not pushing hard, just keeping contact with the surface of the roller and the opposite. Pause there. Take a deep breath. Come back to the center and do the same thing to my right side. So I'm going to shift my weight, slightly turn, just so my head's turned off to the right, enough to notice that I'm on the outside right of that spinal extensor area. Good. Opposite direction. Pause there. Come back to the center. Allow the weight of your head to just sit there and gravity to do its work. Great job. I'm going to roll to my side to sit myself up. And we're going to move into a position where we're on this the long way. So to do that, I like to bring the roller right up next to me. And I'm going to shift my weight and bring my tailbone on there. And then slowly bring myself down so that I am on the roller with my head and tailbone now on there. Now it's a lot softer and more forgiving than a hard roller. So if you have a hard roller at home, you probably don't want to stay in this position too long. But with the soft roller, you'll notice that there's that initial softness. And then as your body gets used to the softness, it starts to sit deeper and deeper into that roller. So let's start with just knowing where our body is in space. And I want you just to close your eyes. Keep your fingertips close to the floor if you're not quite sure if you're going to be able to stay on there. And just gently rock back and forth. What you may notice, if you really think about it, is you can feel almost the fluid of your body moving side to side. See it almost like gelatinous from your organs to your muscles and your bones, everything moving side to side. Your body's ability to come back to the center is your ability to recenter yourself or find that center of gravity. Notice if one side was a little tougher to adjust. Deep breath. Now, all the while we're going through this breathing and movement of the pelvis, remember your spine is right on top of this roller with that constant contact on that roller, allowing a shear to happen at different points in this whole series. So in this position, let's think about where the pelvis is in space. And we do this so much in our floor classes, trying to find that natural curve or that neutral spine. So I'm going to have you take your hands on top of your hips and tip so that you create this really large circle in the low of the back. That's called the tilt. The tuck is going the opposite direction where you pull underneath you. Keep your feet really light. I don't want you to feel like you're moving in your back or really moving in your legs at all. Just move gently at the pelvis. Your ability to do that will save you down the road from spinal issues. Deep breath. And then come back to neutral. So part of this calming series is to really stay focused on your breathing and your body's ability to almost take what's inside and just release the negative issues in the body. So as you're breathing, I want you to almost feel yourself breathing in sunlight and just letting out those things that cause that anxiety in the body. So I'm going to have you take your hands around the side of the body. And as you're breathing in and exhaling out, I want you to think about the diaphragm and how it has 6 sides. And on the sides, right and left, you're breathing all the way out into those hands. And then as you're exhaling, you're filling up. Inhale, fill. Exhale, empty the balloon. One more time. And then exhale. And now take those hands, and I want you to bring one high up by the neck area and one really down low right on top of the pelvic girdle. Take a deep breath and feel the length of that diaphragm. Again, breathing in. Do that a few times. And now notice from the top to the bottom. And I'm gonna place my hand in the low of the back and one on the top. But as I breathe in and out, I wanna feel as if I'm expanding in both directions, above me and below me. And then emptying it out. And again, notice the pelvis didn't change in space at all, but the diaphragm did. So now that you have all 6 sides of that diaphragm working really well, the neck has been released in some of our cervical gliding, and now our pelvis is set. I want you to hold those positions as we go through some more gliding in Sharia, the shoulder blade area. I'm going to extend my arms up and then bring them down to about 45 degrees, trying to keep it all to the shoulders. I'm going to turn my thumbs back to help my shoulders stay back. Now take those shoulder blades, and I want you to pull the shoulder blades together as if you're retracting back, almost like you have a band in your hand. And then almost like you're finishing up a push-up at the top, protract, pull those shoulder blades apart. Do that again. Inhaling, reaching. And exhale. And notice the shear of the shoulder blades on the inside of that scapula pulling against. One more time. Excellent job. Now bring those hands down towards the floor. And if this is the T position, I want you below that. Again, still drawing those shoulder blades down. And I want you to externally rotate. So now you've got those small muscles of the shoulders working, and you're holding there. If you notice, my low back popped up. So now I'm going to go right back to its natural curve, sometimes a natural tendency to do that. Hold there. And I just want you to move in the wrists. There's actually a neurological effect going on here, moving in the wrists. Remember that fascia that covers the fingertips, but it moves all the way down to the wrists, past the elbows, to the shoulders, and then hold there, and maybe even grip and extend. Can you feel the fluids moving through the back of the arms, through the shoulder blades? And now relax. Excellent job. Let's do one last opener. We did this in one of our last series. Now have me take your right hand on top of your chest and heart. Take your left hand down to the floor. Turn your head slightly to the right. Remember, you have these little levator muscles right here that are really important. Hold. And now as you turn slightly, I want you just to notice the pull across the upper part of the neck, across the shoulder, maybe down into the bicep tendon even. Deep breath. It's very subtle. You don't have to turn yourself completely sideways. And come back to the center. Let's do the opposite side. I'm going to bring my left hand onto my chest, my right hand down to the floor. Take a deep breath and slightly turn in the opposite direction. So notice I didn't turn my head real far, just a little bit. Let my body barely drift off, and then use the energy and contraction of my shoulder blade on the right side, pushing down to the floor, keeping me from falling off my roller. And then come back to the center. Go back to the hands and the hips. Take a deep breath and exhale. Excellent job. Let's go ahead and roll to our side, off of our roller. And now that we've done a lot of our rebalancing sequence, I want to move back to the upper back area and neck. So to do that thoracic spine, we've already glided and sheared on a few points. And now we're going to go through what's called rinsing. And the only difference with rinsing is it's a glide, but it's one directional. So the roller is going to be moving in one direction. This one's a little tricky, and you might find yourself moving a lot with your feet. Let's start with the feet directly below the knees. Lift the hips up. And it's okay if the hips are a little bit higher than your body, and let your hands sit behind your head so your head can really rest like a hammock in those arms. I'm going to drop my hips down and drive all the way down the back, and then I'm going to come back to that position. Start all the way in the upper back without moving onto that cervical spine. That's one of our little soft spaces we want to stay off of. And as you drop your hips, you're going to drive up. Let's do that one more time. Feet below the knees, breathing deep, drop those hips and roll all the way up. Excellent job. So we're going to bring ourselves up and come all the way down to the ground. We have 2 things left to focus on. It's going back to that cervical area and just spending a little bit more time there. And then I'll show you something new, which is all about moving the fluids of the face. And this should be great. So in this position, I want you to take your legs straight out, have your hands right by your side, and just notice that the roller is still at that base of the skull where that hairline is. And from right there, I want you to turn your head side to side. You might have already noticed that some of the tension that you were feeling earlier is starting to dissipate. Come back to the center and wait. I like to hold the ends of my roller when I go through this movement, but it's another type of glide, or shear, sorry, where you are dragging the back of your head across. And almost like you want to pin the skin down, different than the hamstring area. A drag. Again, not pushing hard, allowing the weight of your head to kind of dictate the resistance. And come back to the center and wait. Take a deep breath and relax. Let's finish this with some facial rinsing. You're going to take your fingertips along the top of the head, and I want you just to start to gently drag your fingertips across your skin. And again, the idea is just like any other part of your body, there's fascia, even in the facial muscles and skin and neck, opening up. You can go through this once, twice, 3 times, always pulling away and dragging out. One more time, and bring your hands down to the floor. You're going to move the roller out of the way, lay it all the way on your back, extend your arms out, take a deep breath. One more time. Excellent. You can roll to your side. Take your time getting up. Remember to always finish with lots of water. Your body has been through a sequence where it's moved a lot of fluid. Thanks for joining me.